Before started doing this and marketing my own art or something separate than my role as an artist, what I feel like works the best for me is just using marketing as a form of storytelling and having it as a way to kind of amplify my own relationship with my work. When I started in 2013, I was talking to anyone and everyone, and I had no idea what was going to work. So you have that hunger, and there's this natural obsession. Like art for me is not just in how I paint, but it's also in how I teach and like the way I design my
Yeah.
business. And nowadays is having at least like one or two coaches, mentors, or like therapists, some type of like support group that I can rely on. You're never going to wake up one day and say, oh, remember that time I wanted to be an artist? If it's truly their passion and their calling, it doesn't matter if you're 75, if you're 85, if you're 35. It's one of those things where you can't quit. Thank you. Yes, this is Amirah Rahim, and I'm really excited to be on your
Mhm.
podcast.
Same here. Thank you so much. Amira, I have seen you, so I'll share where I think I've been following you for quite a few years. I saw your work, um, bright, colorful abstracts for a long time now. And I've seen you in different phases. I
Mhm.
know, like you said, the more popular get from, I think I've been following you while you were only growing, then I've seen you grown. Like you said, for past 2 years, you've not done a podcast, but I've also seen you time while you were, sharing more and a lot more active. From then to now, I think a lot has happened for you and for me, of course. So I'm very excited to have you. But
Yes.
for people who don't know you yet, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. I am a lifelong artist. I've been drawing, gosh, since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I started painting when I was 13, and art has always been one of those things that I sort of did in the closet. It was like a healing and a therapy, but I never considered that I would be able to do it as a career. And when I was working in New York City, I worked for a financial services company where I got to really interview and vet different experts across different niches. And there was one thing that stood out, and that was like the marketing departments. And I was like, wow, if I could go back to school for something, I would study marketing. Little did I
Okay.
know I would eventually open up my own art business, and marketing, as you know, is like probably 90% of the work that we do as artists. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, since then, it's been over 10 years now of selling my art online, licensing my art to different
Yeah.
companies across the world, and teaching as well. So, yeah, it's been a huge learning curve, but like, I'm so grateful that I went for my dream.
Okay, so you said about marketing, right? And I've seen you over the years teach marketing to a lot of people and, host so many workshops and work. How do you think marketing has really, what kind of role has marketing played for you as an artist? Did initially you have any resistance? And over the years, since you've been doing this, how have you approached it? And in different seasons, it's helped you and not, both
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, that's a good question. I think, marketing, before started doing this, marketing my own art, there definitely was this perception of marketing as being something different than art or something separate than my role as an artist. Now I see marketing as very dependent on marketing is what you make it, right? Especially nowadays with like
Yeah.
influencer culture and content creation.
Hmm.
And so, what I feel like works the best for me is just using marketing as a form of storytelling and having it as a way to kind of amplify my own relationship with my work and how I talk about my work. And so, if you can do that in a way that feels like authentic and you're consistent, um, it just basically it's almost like the marketing kind of creates itself. And
Okay.
as artists, I think, it could be really intimidating trying to market your artwork because you want to do everything right and you
Absolutely.
don't know, yeah, you don't know where to start and it's like who to listen to. And you may see like something working in other fields, but as an artist, it may not translate in our niche. And so I think just kind of what has helped me is just like treating my art community as people and like almost like a family, and realizing like my artwork is an expression of my soul, and it's so vulnerable, it's so sensitive to share that online. But at the same time, there are other souls out there that look forward to seeing someone like yourself. They look forward to seeing your story and your journey. And we call that, quote unquote marketing, but really
Yeah.
it's just showing up and kind of sharing your journey. And so I think,
Yeah.
it's important for me, even now, especially after doing this for so long and kind of coming across my own like blocks at this stage,
Yeah.
realizing like I can't compare myself to other marketers. I can't compare myself to other like industry experts and things like that, because the things that work for me as an artist, other professions may see that as being unprofessional, or
Yeah.
why would you tell people, why would you talk about this, but it's like as
Yeah.
artists, it's it's a part of the process. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but marketing is like changing so much these days, and
Yeah.
I think it's
It's
gonna be
keeping
really
up. Like
tricky.
it's
Yeah.
every day. It's like a keep up.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
What was your initial impression like? Were you um, while showing up more, talking about your work? Um, were you too scared? Were you too scared to show up, to share, to have a voice? What was your stepping stone into this process?
Yeah, I think, it's funny because when I started in 2013, I was talking to anyone and everyone, and I had no idea what was gonna work. I had no idea if people would pay attention. So you have that hunger, and there's this natural obsession. Well, and now, like a lot of my friends, they've been selling their art for a long time, and so it's almost a different tone, and it can feel a little, almost like you're starting over in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
because it's like when all your dreams have come true, like, what do you talk about? What do you keep marketing about? And so I always would tell, like, artists that are emerging or just kinda starting out to really enjoy this journey that you're on now, where you're sharing the ups and downs, because once you reach a certain level of, like, commercial success, I think it's a little different. People,
yeah,
they kind of have all these perceptions about what you should say, or
yeah,
maybe it's all in your head and you're like I tend to be very much of a perfectionist. So I'm like, "Oh, I can't talk about the things I talked about a few years ago because
yeah.
it maybe it's so." Yeah, I guess that's just where I'm
But
thinking
that's
now.
also
Does
because,
that
it's also because you don't have a rule book. None of us have. And
Yeah, right.
while we transitioned, a lot of us who transitioned in the last 10 years, like
Mhm.
nobody knew how to, like, there was, of course, traditional marketing, but then the way social media came in, like everything that's happening, like we've been the
Mhm.
first few, like in the very sense of it, like a generation
Mhm.
that was very traditional, and then suddenly there was like the internet and started things like
Mhm.
there didn't come like a fixed pattern of, and now
Exactly.
things change so fast and quick, like it's harder, like it's, I think for people who are just coming now, they come with that blood, because we can see Gen Z and the newer kids, like they're spirited that way because they're the they're born with the internet, they have accessibility. So there is
Yeah,
it's so agile, so quick to change and very open and free. But I think I've
yeah,
noticed this within millennials when people,
yeah.
beyond that age gap where we came from a lot of structure and we felt like, okay, then we felt, okay, now this is internet. And then we started making structure on that. And there was still like, some patterns would follow for a bit longer. But now I feel like everything is like so fast and quick, so experimental. So like there's no rule book. Like we're all figuring
Mhm.
it out.
Mhm. Totally.
Like
Yeah.
nobody knows what's the right or the wrong way.
Yeah.
And for
And
creative
it
people, for sure.
yeah. And it can definitely like burn you out because you feel like you're trying so much and you want it to work. But I
Yeah.
guess the cool thing about being an artist is that like we have our whole lives. We can be painters when we're super old, super young. So I try to remind myself like, this is my calling, this is my passion. No, even if I'm not posting on social media like I used to in the next month or so, it's like, you have those ebbs and flows. Just try to remind myself that this is my life, this is my lifelong calling.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Like the younger generations, they definitely show up in a way that's very authentic. And I feel
Yeah.
like ever since TikTok and like reels and stuff, artists, we've definitely sort of struggled with what do we post? What do we say? We're so
Yeah.
used to feeling like we have to have this cookie cutter template and we're
Yeah.
talking to interior designers and everything has to be so luxury
Mm.
and high end. And now the
Yeah.
internet is like, no, we want you to dance and
Mm.
sing and like be cute. And it's just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
we it's asking so much of us, and it's, it's definitely like a growing experience, like, okay, like,
Yeah.
how bad do you really wanna be an artist? How bad do you
Yeah.
really want to be known as an artist, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, these are sort of the questions I'm asking myself these past few days and months, really, yeah.
I'm glad that we're talking about it. Okay, in hindsight, all these
Mhm.
years, as creative, as marketing, as sharing, whatever we, different ways we call it. What do you think has worked for you? And like things, tactically, if really look at it, like everything that you've done, okay, this was something that really helped me over the years.
Mhm.
What would be those things be?
Yeah, there's a few things, and one of them is definitely like having a routine around my painting process, and just it may feel really monotonous in the beginning, but like having boundaries around that and really holding myself accountable to that, because once I realized that I want to do this full time, I had to sort of treat it like, okay, I'm showing up every day and I'm putting in the hours, even if what I make that day looks like crap. Like, I know every day
Yeah,
I gotta show up and keep painting. That was the first thing. The second thing was building a mailing list, and I feel like this is something that's still so important. I literally was just
underrated. Yeah,
doing, like, yeah, technical, like, DNS records and domain verifications and, like, working on really technical things that I'm kind of, happy, I guess, that I can, figure these things out, although it has nothing to do with painting. And I'm sure when people first look at my website or something, they don't think, oh, like this artist is behind the scenes, verifying their domains and checking
yeah,
domain health and yeah, it's really like cloud engineering type of stuff. And but I am
you got
putting
to
in
do.
that type of yeah, you gotta do it. Yeah. So because my mailing list is one of those things that I know if I can send an email and talk to 5 or 6 people, or even 10 or 20 people, I can build a community. I can reach people. I can
Yeah,
get feedback and see what they're interested in and if they're resonating with what I'm putting out into the world. So I definitely recommend, in whatever way you can, having an audience that you can consistently show up as. Like some artists really thrive on YouTube and
yeah,
TikTok. Other artists may do more blogging and Instagram, but like for me, Instagram was my comfort
Go
zone.
to.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like now that Instagram has changed so much, it is kind of like it's kind of bittersweet because I know like, okay, I've been meaning to get on YouTube. I've been meaning to like do podcasts and like show my face more. But it's also like I miss the old Instagram, you know? I
Yeah.
think a lot of artists, we miss that. We miss that because
Yeah.
we had such a connection and community.
Yeah.
But, I think what works is really like email marketing and, being really confident in your process, and that only comes with
Mm.
dedicated time in the
Putting it in.
studios.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you manage the creative with the practical mind? Um, the
Mhm.
marketing and the ideas and the constant push and, so many
Mhm.
things. A lot of time that feels so overwhelming and it's never
Yeah.
ending. I think the more you grow, um, it's a never ending list. It does not
Yeah.
stop. It never stops. So how
Yeah.
do you balance your own creativity and over the years as you've also matured, I'm sure your
Mhm.
perspective towards all of those things have also evolved and like
Yeah.
different stages of life, different stages. I feel um I was also talking to someone today and I was like, I've grown into this area of my life, specifically with my creativity. Like I
Mhm.
want to say less. I'm not like I've reached that point personally, but I want to say less and do more in the
Mhm.
sense of it's not I'm not in that rhythm anymore where I would continually go open up a camera and then share. I'm just not there yet. Or I've gone
Yeah.
past that stage. Maybe I'll come
Yeah.
back. But maybe at this point in season of life, everything that I'm having, because all the while but whatever we're doing, we're also living a life. And
Exactly.
there's so much that happens. So
Mhm.
what do you think has you uh personally manage the creative and this
Mm,
constantly
practical.
being out there, if at
Yeah.
all? And now what do you how are you same exactly where you were while you started out your approach, or has that evolved anyhow?
It's changed a lot, and I'm actually surprised that the longer I've been doing this, the more overwhelming it got. Like it used to be so
Yeah.
much easier when I was just
Yeah.
painting and, just I was just so much easier when I was smaller. Whereas like
Yeah.
now, I think because I love seeing business grow and I love seeing all the different opportunities. It's kind of hard for me to just leave things on the table. So I'm really big into notebooks. Like I have a ton of notebooks. That's the way I keep up with my creative ideas because like art for me is not just in how I paint, but it's also in how I teach and like the way I design my
Yeah.
business is also pretty creative. And so, the second way I kind of manage this, especially nowadays, is having at least like one or two coaches, mentors, or like therapists, some type of like group support group that I can rely on, um, just to remind you of like your agency and taking your power back, and because there's gonna be weird customers, there's gonna be trolls online, there's gonna be not so savory things that happens in your business. And, um, it's just so helpful when you have a good coach in your corner or a good team or something like that, or at least a good therapist, because 9 times out of 10, like your family, your significant
Yeah.
other, they really even they may love you to death, but they just will never really understand like why you're so invested in what you're doing, is something
Yeah.
kind of, again, like we were talking before the call, how isolating it is,
Yeah.
as an artist. And so, it's one of those things where I remember asking myself a few years ago, like, oh, like I was kind of going through a bit of a depression and I was like, why did I choose this? Like, oh my God, it's so depressing. Like being an artist, like even with all the money in the world, it's like I just felt so alone. Like I felt so
Alone.
isolated. And, yeah, and it's just one of those things where I think it's part of the profession in a way, but there's ways you can
Yeah.
balance it,
You can combat it.
having other hobbies, yeah. having
Yeah.
other hobbies,
Yeah.
taking breaks, like you said, painting where you're not posting online. Like sometimes you just want to
Yeah.
paint. Another thing that's helped me in addition to notebooks are sketchbooks. Like I'm really big on having a sketchbook because it allows me to kind of create. And I started out drawing before I was a painter. And so sketching is just like a really nice way to calm my mind. And also, I know I'm not really going to sell anything out the sketchbook. So it stops me from
It's no
like
pressure.
being a perfectionist. Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's no final
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you? Do you like sketching and stuff?
You know, I'll tell you, I've shared this in the previous podcast also. Like, I
Mhm.
I was, but then it's become something. So, last 5 4 5 years, my life, 4 years specifically, my mom passed away, and since then, my life has
Oh,
been on like a toss. And I had
yeah.
studios, and I had one studio, then I had two studios, and I was making larger work and all of that. At this
Mhm.
point, from living in my own apartment, then I was living with now I'm living at my father's and my parents' house. Like I
Mhm.
literally am struggling with space. Like, and
Mm.
I'm struggling with time because Arts to Hearts grew
Yeah.
and, everything happened. And it was just like life, not professionally, but personally has
Yeah.
become so hard and like unstable. Like I just didn't have the
Mhm.
luxuries I had before. And
Mhm.
I couldn't just go, a step away and just step into the studio whenever I wanted. And that had changed.
Mhm.
And it was bothering me so much. And, I'm just sitting where I am right now. And that then,
Mhm.
what I started, I was like, and I started painting really small. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't know. I mean, I can't survive without it. So I'd rather whatever I have.
Yeah.
So now 90% of my room where I live is because while I was, let's say I had a studio, I still have a space where I can go and paint, but then I'm having
Mhm.
so many calls and there's so much more resistance, and um
Yep.
just the right mindset for an energy of a space, and I didn't feel that. So I set up a table, and every morning and at before bed, some days I'm too tired, like I'm recording this at 12:30 midnight, so I'm not painting.
Mm.
Today in the entire day I
Yeah.
didn't have the bandwidth, but I probably early in the morning and late at night, different pockets of time, I would either flow things. I'll just take something really small, like this is something I've
Yeah.
painted, and like this has really enabled me thinking that and painting for myself, because then
Mhm.
it enabled me, like in the morning I have a sketchbook because I know like I only have 10, 15, 20 minutes. At night I have
Yeah.
a couple of hours, so I will do something more like I can put my effort into. And it made me realize, like as a person, I there are two sides to it. So as a person,
Mhm.
it satisfies me. Like I want to do larger work, but I'm not rushing. Like I know where I am personally in life. I'm not going to be here
Yeah.
forever. But because
Exactly.
I'm doing whatever I can. But
Mhm.
then there's the other side, which is driven by fear, which is like, I had reached this point where I had two studios, I was doing all of this, I was making the work, I was doing, I was spending so much of time, and suddenly everything has been, you know, gone with the drop of a hat, and I can I no longer like make the bigger work. What if I lose it? What if, like, when I see someone else, I'm like, oh my God. So I
I
think there are
know.
two, like
Yeah.
social media, like if I was living in a bubble, I would be
Mhm.
more gracious to myself. And I think this is
Yeah.
something I keep reminding, like, I'm doing the best I can. I'm making the
Mhm.
best I can. And, I may not paint as much, but, I photograph more. I collect a lot more visuals that I know will lead something tomorrow. It's like a
Exactly.
groundwork I'm doing, do it today. And like I
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
that there are components, if there's not larger life like what social media can see. Um,
Mhm.
but I know that I'm still doing the work. But when you go outside and when you come with this fear, like, what, if I really need to get out there, I have to be constantly on my toes. I have to have a bigger studio. I have to create bigger works. I have to
Yep.
continue
It's a
post.
lot of pressure.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we all know that's not true. We all know that's not
Mhm.
true. I have seen people who've not been on Instagram and yet done well. But, again, this is something that, but also contrary, even for all our projects, we find people on Instagram. So I think there's so
Mhm.
many. sides to it. But the most important thing, again, centering ourselves into what brings you at the best corner. Like, what makes me feel happy at this point? Like, I desperately need a space where I feel more safe and comfortable, and not for somebody else, but for my soul, because I
Mhm.
want it and I
Mhm.
need it. And I have this little corner, my sketchbooks right now, and these smaller works is because I would rather not, like, I create small and or struggle than not create at all. So I get up every day, struggle,
Mm. Mhm.
and I'm okay. Like, creating even with struggle and making that struggle. But at the end of the day, when I get out of that table and maybe switch off, like, pack my colors and have a lot of mess, I'm like, this is exactly what I want.
Exactly. Yeah, like I'm in the same place. Like I spent like 4 years away from my family during the pandemic, and I didn't realize like I traveled away for college, so I was kind of used to not seeing my family a lot, but I didn't realize how much of a toll that it would take. And so this past
Yeah,
year I basically had to like kind of give myself permission to be a human again and like spend time with
yeah,
family. That is so different than my previous lifestyle, and I think there's a natural sense of guilt and judgment of like, "Oh, if I'm not painting in this huge studio every day, am I, like, really serious? Am I gonna lose it?" But, it sounds like I love how you said, like, you're collecting things, you're photographing more, and it reminded me of, this concept, I think Julia Cameron talked about it,
yeah.
where it's, like, artist dates and, like,
Art is
filling up your
this.
art as well. And it's like
Yeah,
sometimes we can't put out art all the time. Like sometimes
yeah,
artists we need to fill ourselves back up, nourishing, reconnecting to like our motherland foods and our cultures and all the things that we, experience as a child, nature, wonder, and just, rest. Rest is so sacred for us too, and setting that intention of like I am filling up my cup as an artist, as a human being, someone that I trust myself that this is where I am in this journey and I'm going to really maximize it when I'm ready to step out into the world and produce again. Because small, like painting small is also really powerful. Sometimes like
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you because you can really like get really finite with the
Yeah,
collections you're making and like the themes and the sort of imagery. It's almost like you're creating a whole language for yourself. So I'm already just inspired by what you've shared because it really just comes down to consistency. So
yeah.
um yeah, it sounds like you're really like disciplined even if you are changing spaces and stuff. So that's
Yeah, and I think
important.
I think um what I used to ask myself a lot before everything happened,
Mhm.
and I think it also has a lot to do with age. I think a lot of us now are
Yeah.
reaching our late 30s, 40s,
Yeah.
post 30s. And I think life changes. And I've
Yeah.
not said this out loud on the podcast yet, but I feel this. I really feel this. Like, because there are a lot of transitions that, you have ailing parents. I lost my mom
Mhm.
when I was 27,
I'm sorry.
27, 28. And
Mhm.
but then a lot of we've had children in the house. We have, like, you have so many other obligations. Like you said, if you, I also
Yeah.
moved when I was 18. Lived a lot of my life alone. So I had all the
Yeah.
freedom space, and I would have a lot of time on my hand with myself. And then a lot
Yeah.
of people our age have children and families, and I have a business, I have bills to
Yeah.
pay, people to take
Uh-huh.
care of. So all of those has also been, and a house, like a family I'm a part of. So I have commitments and a partner. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
us are also in that part of our stages where we're still
Exactly.
figuring things out and like settling
Yeah.
in. Like we're like and I think I've spoken to so many people of artists of this circle. And I feel like
Mhm.
now, and I really appreciate this now because, the podcast,
Yeah.
because it's doing what it's doing. Because when I didn't have this perspective before, but then now
Yeah.
since I've been speaking to a lot of people and feel like, oh my God, it's not me.
It's
Somebody is
not
going through a hard
yeah.
relationship. Somebody's
Yeah.
going through a baby, somebody's going through a
Yeah.
postpartum, somebody's shifting, somebody's still figuring life out like I am.
Yeah.
And and in those, a lot of moments of doubts come in, and there are a lot of changes we all are
Yeah.
experiencing. And
Right.
we also have a lot of trauma and baggage from what our social media and all of those things have been. So I feel like
Mhm.
um, it's, but if we remove all of that, I think we're all, I think what I feel common amongst a lot of us is no matter where we come, what's happening, we are all trying to find a center with creating the work and trying to,
Mhm.
no matter where life takes you, you always keep back and come center. Oh, if I want to keep creating the work. Like a lot of us are just breaking those boundaries,
Mhm.
big, small, large, selling, not selling, none of those. But the center
Mhm.
of why, in spite of the chaos that you have, you will keep coming back to it. This is
You
what
do.
brings you. This is what brings
Yeah.
you who the real you in you.
Exactly. Yeah, I had this joke I used to say to my community like a few years ago. I was like you're never gonna wake up one day and say, "Oh, remember that time I wanted to be an artist?" Like the
Yeah,
people that's probably listening to this podcast, the people that follow our work and things like that, if it's truly their passion and their calling, it doesn't matter if you're 75, if you're 85, if you're 35. It's like, it's one of those things where you can't quit, So even on the slow months or the slow years or when life happens or if you decide to have a family and you have other responsibilities, it's like you still are going to have that part of yourself that is committed to your art practice no matter what social
right.
media validation you get or so I think it's really nice when other artists are able to lift each other up and just be our
Yeah.
biggest cheerleaders because 'cause we're kind of like weird little aliens, very, misunderstood, like, very
Mm,
misunderstood, like, so I've kinda gotten used to that, but yeah, I really appreciate, like, just being able to have
same
a
here.
safe space to talk, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I
Mhm.
think also like a lot of, I think the more we're going in, I think, like I said, before all of this life happened, I used to ask myself a lot, like, why am I doing this? Is this because I'm trying to chase like a goal? Do I want to like,
Yeah.
because um when we see it from far away, like, find looking people successful, like we all like it. It
Yeah.
feels aspiration. We all want to be there. Am I
Yeah.
being too lazy? Because that's also something we've been, because I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to do this.
Yep.
All of those things. And, or maybe I'm just doing it because I want money.
Exactly, yeah.
And like, and then, when life happened and today I realized like, no, I'm not doing this because I want money. And I'm
Mhm.
not doing this because, in fact, it's adding a lot more tension to where I am right now because I'm feeling like as I'm moving forward, I don't want to let go of this. While I think this is also a
Mhm.
fear, sometimes you have to just leave it and know that, you will always come
Mhm.
back to it. But then also
Yeah.
knowing I want it because I want to breathe. Like after my mom, I always say it was journaling, my dogs, and art, like painting. Three
Aw.
things I wouldn't have survived without because, like,
Aw.
there's so much that,
Yeah,
it gives you rather than it takes from you. But then,
I know.
when you try to look at it as a career, you look at social media and all of those things, and then everything that
Yeah.
we feel unnecessary comes in the bag.
Mhm. Mhm, and like you said, there's no rule book, right? There's no blueprint
Yeah.
for, like, what to do in these situations, so, it's just so important that, I try to remind myself, like, just have more compassion for yourself, like, be gentle for yourself, have gratitude, because like, I don't know about you, but, like, I'm so hard on myself, like, if I don't send
Same.
an email within a month, I'm like, "Oh my god, you're, like, the worst art person ever, you haven't emailed your list." And a coach was just telling me yesterday, they're like, "First of all, I don't mean to sound mean, but, like, most people aren't even paying attention to you as much as you think they
Yeah.
are, so no one
Yeah.
notices when
That's
you take
true.
those long breaks." And the people who really love and support what you do, they're just gonna be excited when you show up, and whether it's
Yeah.
6 months from now or a year from now, it's like I think that's been, like, part of just getting older too, because 'cause we're realizing, like,
Yeah.
"Wait, I'm in my late 30s now," and, like, you're starting to feel that pressure of time of like,
Yeah.
wait, like I gotta really take advantage of the time I have on this earth, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where like community support comes in. So I hope you keep doing this because you're
Same
helping
for
a lot
you.
of people
Same
than
for
you
you.
realize. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, one last piece of advice if you were to give to yourself, to people who are listening, to your younger self, what is that?
Oh, my last piece of advice. Oh boy. That's a tough one. Oh man. I've learned so many hard lessons in this space. Cried myself on the floor so many times because of the lessons I learned. And anytime you're putting your work out there, it is a risk of it being plagiarized and copyright infringement, stolen, and all of this. Um, but if there's one thing I could just my advice to myself is just y- your joy, follow your joy, like within reason, because there's obviously vices and
Yeah,
sometimes you can overindulge in things, but at the root of it, like music for me, color and things like that, they're so vital to my peace and happiness
existence.
as
Yeah,
a being, yeah.
yeah,
And so I feel like just if I could give myself one piece of advice and anyone else listening is just continue to experiment in your creative process. Like I've been painting in acrylics for 10 years and then I kept getting these blocks. Like I just wasn't connecting that much. I felt like I painted everything I could and every way I could. And I allowed myself to start using oils again, and it was, like, the best thing. So now I feel this sense of excitement when I'm in the studio again
yeah.
because I'm like, I'm doing something,
Fresh and
I'm using a
new.
material. Yeah, I hadn't used oils. I started using oils when I was 13, so there's that familiarity with it, and so, it feels really, really nice.
Yeah,
So, yes, that's my piece of
I
advice. So
love
just
that.
continue to experiment with your process and don't be afraid to take risks.
I love that. Okay. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, Amira. It was amazing talking to you. It was so fast and quick. We managed because I was afraid, I don't know if the internet would support us today, but it did.
I
So I'm
know.
glad.
I'm so, thank you,
Mm.
thank you, thank you. Yes, because we had a lot of technical
Same here.
difficulties getting here,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
so glad. And you can, you know, like I said, like anytime you want to have me back, if you want to have me back, I'm available. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
if any other artists want to reach out, you guys can definitely find my work, contact me online, and yeah, like have more
Just mention
conversations.
where can people find you? That is
Yeah.
something I want to ask you.
Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram at Amirah Rahim Art or my website, www.amirahim.com. I'm currently offering a free tutorial challenge. You can offer it. You can find it on my Instagram. And I used to charge for this tutorial, but it's available free now where people can see my painting process. And I basically recreated a painting, kind of destroyed a painting, and it ended up being a lot better. So if you're looking for something to kind of, get your creative juices flowing again and you're looking at an old painting, you're not sure how to change it up, maybe you would enjoy that tutorial. You can find that through my Instagram. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amira. It
Thank
was
you.
truly a blast to have you. And I hope to have you soon back. In the meanwhile, please make sure, guys, to follow Master's Conversations. You subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you can find all the links on our website and more about Amira and everything she's mentioned in the article. And make sure that you tune in next week for another episode. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good rest of your week. Thank you.